A very warm good morning to one and all present. I, Nishant Singh, extend a heartiest welcome on this last day of this 1 week capacity building program on basics of research methods and techniques organized by Department of Management Studies, GL Bajaj Educational Institution, Greater Noida. I would like to welcome our esteemed guest and resource person, Dr. Shireen Zafar Ma'am, Assistant Professor at School of Science and Engineering, Jamia Hamdard University, New Delhi. I would like to further welcome our Director GLBIM, Dr. Mukul Gupta Sir, Dean Department of Management Studies, Dr. Deepa Gupta Ma'am, Head of the Department, Dr. Rohit Kaushik Sir, our participants, faculty colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I extend a very warm welcome and welcome you back on the last day of this 1 week capacity building program on basics of research methods and techniques. Dear participants, we have among us our expert for the session, Dr. Shireen Zafar Ma'am. She is an assistant professor in computer science and engineering in School of Engineering at Jamia Hamdard University, New Delhi. She has more than a decade experience into teaching and research guidance and assistance to the students, scholars. She has published papers into journals of national and international reputes. She is among on the board of certain editorial boards in the team of certain reputed journals listed in the Scopus and the other higher ended journals also. She has got a patent published in the project of the DST. She is a strong and a firm believer of positive thinking at workplace. And I think that's the real mantra that she has been like following and enjoying. She had guided various PG and PhD students in realizing their research domains and landing them with their dreams of their life of getting into doctorate. With these words, I would request ma'am to kindly help us in extending our capacity by enlightening us with a knowledge. Over to you, ma'am. With these words, I request Shireen ma'am to kindly take up the session further and enlighten us with this process.
A very good morning to everybody. Do it now, sometimes later will become never. Starting with this quote, I would first like to thank Nishant sir, Shruti ma'am, Sarvendu sir, Dean ma'am, and all the management and staff of GL Bajaj Institute. I was there in the previous talk also, and I had a very good response of the participants in terms of their interaction. So I will be keeping my talk in terms of a very interactive session. And secondly, I'll be checking how the participants are interactively connected. So what we'll be doing, the rapid fire, which I had in my third slide, I'll be going and doing that rapid fire maybe in the end. So we have more audience connected with them. So starting with the topic I have, the topic is very close to my heart. That is concept of thesis, research, and when we talk about research paper or abstract writing. The thing is that if you do all your research, if you do all your papers, if you do all your thesis writing with your heart, then no plagiarism can affect you. I always ask my students, just take a copy and write. And if you write in your own words, if you write in your own mannerism, then there will be no plagiarism, there will be no paper which will be connected with you, there will be no data which will be connected to your data. It's just doing your work with full passion and full support of your, whether it's your guide, whether it's your mentor, and so on. So when we start thesis writing or when we start our work in research, it should be done in a very positive manner. It should be done in with respect to the things that we have been teaching to our students also. So let's start and see. And I think all these things which I'll be telling are things which are like a very important specification regarding research writing. But the thing is that if you'll write your thesis, if you'll make your thesis with your heart and with full passion, then I think these features will be yours. You will be writing features of your own. Okay, so I'll be starting the presentation. So is my screen all visible?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. You can come to the next slide, ma'am. Then you can
Okay.
play with the video.
Let's start with the important specification of research writing, thesis writing, and abstract writing. And let's check this, how the researchers from all over the world think about these methods.
Love discipline to start with.
Discipline.
To ask good questions. So I think
Ask questions.
courage to go into areas which you never went
Courage.
before. You have to be comfortable with the empty page. That when you're given a problem, there isn't an answer. In fact, sometimes it's very difficult to be able to articulate.
Problem should have an answer.
Curiosity, like a childlike curiosity, I think is the thing.
Curiosity like a child.
I think that's a curiosity. So if you know, if you're aware of what you are interested in and how you would like to explore your interests, I think that's what makes a good researcher from the rest.
Explore your interests.
Drive of solving problems and pushing the technology.
So trying things.
Try new things.
They have to be very motivated by the technology. They have to be interested in how things work, how they can be better.
It helps a lot to be in a team of people who are working on similar problems and projects. You can discuss with them. Hey, I'm stuck.
Discussions.
Results are not what I expected.
If you are stuck, discussions are very important.
Both perfectionist and somewhat pessimistic. You have to see the weaknesses and things.
You have to find your weaknesses.
On how to make them better, how to get them stronger. The critical thing is good basics. So
Good basics, very
for young
important.
research, it's important that they learn the fundamentals of good analytical method. They have to be consistent. They have to check the results, and they have to put aside their desire for something to work and just say, okay, it didn't work. And that's
Desire
really
to learn something new.
You gain that from experience.
So these are the things that are being discussed. This rapid fire we'll be taking in the last session. Let's see what actually is research. When we start talking about research, we have two things in the specification, a thesis and a research paper. So normally when you are going for any of your degrees, whether it's your MTech degree, your MCA degree, and you have a project, you normally write a dissertation, you normally write a thesis. And when we talk about a research paper, you have to do an independent research and you have to write the description and you have to specify the various findings. Moreover, you have to present your evaluations and arguments on the topic under consideration. So when we talk about a research paper, the research paper normally comes out of your thesis, or we can say that research paper goes into your thesis. Okay, we have the two ways. Normally when we start the work in PhD, we ask the PhD students to write research papers, and when they start compiling their thesis, they put those research papers in as their chapters. Or when you have completed some work and your PhD work, some results are still not published, so you take out those results, expand them more, and then again build a research paper. So very important two terminologies. So normally when we start thesis writing, we pick up an area, then we select a project. And as it was told by the researchers also, that we need to have open-ended questions. We need to look for the projects that have that are well supported in the market, and you need to visualize your publications. Very important. If you have the goal in the mind, if you have the visualization in the mind, then nobody can stop you in doing good research, in doing a plagiarism-free research. So as I told you, it's very important that you need to stick to an area that you are excited about. Okay, very important. Secondly, it's important to find out something uniqueness in your work, because just doing the same thing which has already been done cannot be very much fruitful. So you need to focus on uniqueness. And as I told you, it's very important to ask the open-ended questions. You cannot stick to the yes/no questions. You need to specify what if. You need to specify if I do that. Okay, so you need need not to specify only the yes, no, which are considered as to be a high risk questions. Rather than you should be going with open-ended questions. Then it's very important that you need to be connected to projects, you need to be connected to research, which will incorporate better skills in you, and you need to visualize your publications. That's very, very important. So when we go for any kind of a dissertation writing or a thesis writing, we need to specify our dissertation proposal. And nowadays, as I am also a co-PI of the FIS DST project, and when we were writing that project, we were keeping into the mind the title, the objectives, the research, the method, the possible outcomes, time frame, and very important, your references. And all these build up to an effective research. And when you are going for, do it in an amazing manner. Go with some very important review work. Write down, as I told you, need to write down. You need not to be cut, copy and paste terminologies. When, if I say 10 years before, my mother was doing PhD, and she was doing PhD on the concept of Nawabs of Bhopal, because as Bhopal is considered as my birthplace, so we had the lady Nawabs there, and they were ruled by the lady Nawabs. So she was writing. I could see that she was continuously writing and doing her work in a very positive manner. But we have lost that. We need, when we start doing our work, we just do a copy paste. So if you want to be your paper and thesis plagiarism free, you just need to do what is right. Writing habit. It can be writing through your system, it can be writing in hand. So that's very important. And take the feedback of people who are very much connected to this thesis, connected to the project. They can be your mentor, they can be your guide, they can be your friends, and so on. The very important part of your thesis is an abstract. So see, what is an abstract? Normally, researchers get confused in abstract and introduction, but abstract is different from an introduction. So actually, what is an abstract? It is more concise and direct summary of the research, and it provides a clear description of your study. And when I review any paper, if I get a clear abstract, I give that paper more chances of acceptance. And introduction should also be very clear because it provides the background of the research. And you can keep it into 2 to 4 paragraphs. And very important thing that I always tell to my researchers is that when you are doing an introduction, you need to have the various details of all the sections at the end section of the introduction. When you are ending the introduction, your introduction ending should containing all the details of the various sections. So that will help the reviewer rather than reading the whole, because I can tell you that most reviewers don't read the whole paper, but because they have the knowledge, they have the expertise, by reading your abstract, by reading your introduction, by reading the various section details, they normally get to know how the paper is framed. So when we talk about a research paper is focusing on a central argument, while your thesis can focus into a large area, but your research paper normally focus on a single argument. That's the paper you are concerned about. And when we talk about a research paper, it's very important that your paper should be original and should be plagiarism free. Then only you can target good journals, then only you can target the impact factor journals. Now, and the thing is that what are the reasons for writing the research paper? It's very important that you need to be connected to the topic you are writing your research on. And when you are doing a learning by doing method means you are learning every day, and every time, every second you are writing, you are exploring. When you are doing a bibliography, when you are searching something from the net also, you are learning each and every day. The research paper is a logical exercise. Remember, it is not a physical exercise, it is a logical exercise which helps you in the imagination, your thought process, and common sense. I don't say that you don't have to get the bibliography from the internet. Nowadays, we have so much information from Google that we can track so many papers, we can learn so many things from them. But I always tell my researchers that when you pick up a paper, don't read the whole paper. Just read the abstract and conclusion of it and jot down in your own words what that paper said about. Maybe you can download 10 papers, and by reading the abstract and by the conclusion, you can jot down the summary of those 10 papers. Then you can explore that what are the shortcomings of those paper, what are the gaps of those paper, and what your finding is about. That will help you to generate something new, your imagination, your thought process, and your common sense, as we say. So when we know that you have pick out a topic, then you need to track the information. It is very important to organize and to summarize. This is very important. As I told you that if you can get 10 papers, you have to summarize it. You have to manage your time. You cannot say that every time you are doing reading, once your reading is done, then you need to start with the implementation. You need to start with the questionnaire. You need to start with some coding if you have coding involved in your project. So these are all the things that need to be done systematically. Now we'll tell you that this was the motivation that helps you in research paper writing. Now, how to do that research paper writings? Normally, these are my views, but they can be more than 7 steps, they can be 10 steps, but these are some of the steps that I have jotted down in order to give you a better insight while doing your any kind of a research, which can be your paper writing or which can be your thesis writing. Okay, so start with outline. As I always told you that your outline, your research questions should be very clear, they should be open ended. Then if you have issues, ask for assistance. You cannot say that I know everything. You have your mentors, you have your guides, you have your teachers, you have your close people who may answer or who may provide knowledge to you in case of any difficulty. Then once you have start making your research plan and locate your resources. That resources can be resources for your coding, that resources can be going out and doing a survey, that resources can be building a questionnaires. Then use those resources to develop good research techniques. Very important, because if you will be doing a good research, then your research will be referred. Why we say that people have so good citations, why we say that people have so good Scopus index, why we say that people have so good H index and I-10 index, because people love their work, because they love to use their work in their referring. So it's very important to do something which is called as neotric, which is called as novel. Then revise. It's very important that you need to revise, keep on revising, because this revising your own research will answer your own questions, will help you to develop something new. Normally when I did my research and I was during my PhD work, what I normally, when I was sleeping, I normally had some dream that I need to do a coding like this. Normally I had a dream that I need to pick up something like that. At 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, I used to get up and then doing again in that half an hour, just jotting, because I always thought that if I have this idea in in my mind, I can jot it down. So I jotted down, and then I got up in the morning and did something which was relating to that idea. Okay, so you need to be very much passionate about it. Then you need to understand the academic academic procedure and mention the resources. And it's very important because any university that you are connected with, you are doing your research with them, you need to understand their academic performance, their academic consideration, and do work accordingly. And it's very important to critically access your resources. Very important. You need to assess the factors, you need to assess the resources, and you need to investigate. Keep on doing investigation that will help you to develop a very novel research. Okay, so you need to do these things in a very passionate manner. Now when we are doing research, as I told you, don't be worried. That's a very important thing, because people normally get stuck, and when they get stuck and they have some negative feedbacks from some authors, or when they have some negative feedback from some reviewers, they say, now I'm not interested. This is not the thing. As I always tell my students, and as I always kept telling me, you need to have a positive approach. You need not to get worried. Normally what I did that in very suppose some high impact factor journals, I used to put up my paper, and if I get a negative feedback, so I was very happy that either at least they read my paper, and I got some negative responses, so I use those negative responses in order to build a positive thing. So if you're getting a rejection also, don't be worried, and don't postpone. That I say it's very important. If you get a negative feedback, I'm not doing this, I'm going to something else. No, don't postpone, don't delay your things. Keep the spirit and keep yourselves motivated. And the thing is that you must do everything at the time. Don't say that I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do in the last moment, because the deadlines are there. We have the deadlines in the journals, we have, because as I tell you that suppose tomorrow is the deadline for submitting a paper, and normally when we go for high impact factor journals, they have many things to be asked. They ask a structural abstract, they ask a graphical abstract, and you don't know these things, and then you get stuck, and then you are not able to submit your paper. So you need to keep 2-3 days in advance before going on and submitting it, either at least to track out the details, at least to track out the specifications of finding out what are the things that are being asked by the journal. Then it's very important that you need to choose a good topic. Now, what is a good topic? I cannot say that topics are good or bad, but topics are those which are connected to you. Okay, so choose a research topic, and choosing a research topic is not a small task, and some researchers and some people spend their a lot of time in that. So the thing is that you need to talk to your mentor, you need to talk to your friends, and you need to stick to your work, your motivation. You need to stuck to your imagination. You need to stuck to your like what you are interested in. That is very important. You cannot say if 10 people are doing this, I'll go and jump on this. If you don't know anything about it, then you have to start from zero. So choose to your topic. Nowadays it's so imaginative that computer science people are connecting with management people are connected with computer science, we have mathematics being connected in artificial intelligence, we have electrical, we have electronics being connected. And when we talk about computers is connected with each and every branch. Last time we did a project and we did a webinar. I attended a webinar in FDP on lath. Although lath is connected to mechanical programming, but I found it something new. So why to just explore? Exploring doesn't waste your time. You can explore. If you find it good, you can use that exploration in your research. So choosing a topic should be the very important specification. But I always tell to my researchers what I got the information from my guides, that topic topic should be a little broad enough. You're choosing the topic should be broad enough, because maybe after completing your research, you may land up in doing something which is maybe 30% or 40% or 50% of the topic. So the thing is that if you choose a very concise topic, then you have to stick with that topic. So choosing a broad topic and choosing a broader mechanism will help you landing in a safe zone. So that's very important to do. Now, as I told you, the criteria for choosing a good topic is that you need to do things of your interest, and you need to talk about things which are not talked about. Then challenges should be accepted, because when you are saying that you are going to do something novel, then you have a challenge and you need to work hard on that mechanism. And as I told you, these qualities are the qualities, if you take into specification the passionate, then the hard work, then your research will be very much fruitful. Now, as I told you that while choosing a topic, you need to generate ideas. Those ideas can be, as I told you, I got ideas during sleeping. People get ideas when they are praying, or anywhere else they get some ideas. So you need to generate ideas, and you can get ideas when you have read. During your reading, you are not getting ideas, but as you close your book, you get an idea. And when you get an idea, just play with the code. This was the word that was given by my guide, and he's no more, Professor Rathi. He used to tell me, play with the code. We have so many ample resources. Just get the code from the internet. You are not copying that code, you are running that code. I tell to my students also, play with it. Just first run that code. If you are able to run it, then modify it. Play with it. Change 5 lines, change 4 lines. You get the expertise. So a test run is very important. And then when you have done a test run, then narrow down your ideas. As I tell you that you start with broader frame of mind, and then narrow down your ideas. And nowadays we have, as we say, that Google data. So you have that Google power with you. So just get that online assistance, and that Google assistance is for your imagination, and that Google assistance is not for cut, copy, paste. That is for regenerating and getting new ideas. Now, just look at this, what this person is telling you, how to structure a research paper.
Writing goes through the general, specific, general.
So your research paper is a specification of general, specific, and general. So general is your introduction.
Start off with the general statement. You compile references. You talk about the general.
And as I told you, introduction plays a very important role, because it establishes the background. Very important, because your background is your part of your introduction. Then when you are developing either your thesis or your research paper, your purpose should be very clear, because it gives your intention. Vague topics and vague writing doesn't give any specification to your research paper. Then obviously, then methods and results. This should be in a organized manner, because you cannot say that you have results in the starting. So this should be your structure. And very important, once you have described your results, you need to discuss and conclude by comparing with a previous work. Very important, because your work is not completed unless and until it is being compared with some others' work. Maybe it is negative, or maybe it is positive. So you have your abstract, you have your introduction, you have methods, you have results, and you have discussions. So this is a very important scenario that needs to be followed. And when we are saying that we need to do the original, the hypothesis and the research questions should always be reported, and they should be discussed. Because when you have your paper, you have your guide, you have your some connected authors with you. So you need to discuss your findings, your problems with your co-authors also. And when we say that, I always prefer that if you if you don't get positive results also, you have some negative results. And when findings and hypotheses still prove wrong, because nowadays many journals say that we'll only publish the positive results, but journals have started realizing that not publishing negative results can slow down the progress of science. We need to find out what is negative also. So many journals have started publishing negative results also, because they will help the researcher to find out something positive, find out, because in when we talk about your any kind of a criteria, when you talk about any kind of a scenario in which whether it's a pandemic situation or COVID-19 situation, then you need to find some negative results also, and then develop your resources for the same. Many journals like the Biomedicine Journal, the PLOS One Journal, they all have started publishing negative results, so that your science keeps on uplifting and you have something to derive from the negative and build something which is positive. Now, how to approach to an original article, and how to build your original article, that I showed you also. You need to develop your research questions. Very important is doing the literature search, very important, because that literature search will help specification. And a very important portion that plays are the title, the abstract, and the keywords. And normally the 10 to 12 words research paper title, and the abstract, as I told you, should be very much accurate, and it should overview the whole summary of your paper. And when I read an abstract as a reviewer, I develop my interest to read the paper further. Normally if a weak abstract is there, or abstract which is not serving the purpose of anything, I normally go and then read the conclusion. So abstract and conclusion should be very much pinpointing, which should be focusing on the work that has been done. So you need to be very careful into consideration while you are developing your paper in terms of your keywords and abstract and title. Now, when you are going for writing a good title, I can tell you that a good title attracts the people a lot. When you talk about the reviewers or the editors, they very much focus on the title which are very much explanatory, or titles which are very much attractive, or titles which are very much connected. So you need to highlight on the topic, and need not to be very big, need not to be very small, and should be focusing on the work that is highlighted in the paper. And as I told you, that abstract works like a marketing tool. So abstract becomes your shortlisting criteria. So if abstract is good, normally reviewers go and read further your paper, and if abstract is not good, then they normally reject your paper in a one go. So you need to be very much concise and very much specified manner write your abstract. Then we normally have abstract which are categorized into descriptive, informative, and structured abstracts. And when we go for social sciences, they normally ask for, and humanities for descriptive abstracts. Then informative abstracts are mainly specified in various sciences, where you are focusing on the aim, the methods, the results, and the conclusion. Then there are structured abstracts that they are mainly found in medical clinical trial reports, but this is not very much that this is the default. Many journals ask for descriptive abstract, many journals ask for all the three abstracts. So this is very much specified to particular journals. They may demand a researcher anything that is being specified in their rules. So you need to gear up, and you need to be specified in writing any kind of abstract, because if your work is done by you, and if the work is even if it is collaborative work, then there is no harm in writing a descriptive abstract, because everybody will know, everybody will understand, and everybody will be able to normally when we start writing a title, so start with some questions, that what is my paper about, what techniques and designs are used in my paper, who and what will study my paper, what are my results. So for example, I ask these questions and I put my answers. So as I say, my paper studies the X therapy improves the cognitive function of patients suffering from dementia. It was a randomized trial. I studied 40 cases from 6 cities in Japan. There was an improvement in the cognitive function of patients. So these are all the questions that are being answered by me. Then when I get these answers, from that I get, for example, X therapy as my keyword, the randomized trial as my keyword, the dementia as my keyword, 6 Japanese cities names as my keyword, 40 cases as my keyword. Now I use that keyword and I build a sentence. This study is a randomized trial that investigates whether X therapy improved cognitive function in 40 dementia patients from 6 cities in Japan. It reports improved cognitive function. So this is 28 words. Now I'll reduce it further. So I'll delete all the unnecessary words. I'll delete all the repetitive words. So then I get, this study is a randomized trial that investigates whether X therapy improved cognitive function 40 dementia patients from 6 cities in Japan. Okay, then I'll further improve it and I get 18 words. So this is the then I further say that this is little bit more to be reduced. Then I say that randomized trial of X therapy for improving the cognitive functions in 40 dementia patients, 13 words. Then much more refined, 12 words. So these are all coming out of your questions and answers. So repetitive things can be avoided. Things which are not focusing on your research paper can be avoided. So many a times my students ask me, ma'am, what should be the title? So I always tell them to just first ask questions about your paper, write down the answers, and then get a topic. So this very clearly specify how you can get a very good research topic of your research paper. Now, the thing is that you need to write the abstract normally once you have finished writing your whole paper, because when you have finished writing your whole paper, then you need to ask some questions: what problem I am trying to solve and who motivated me, and then we need to pick out the major objectives, the hypothesis, and the conclusion. Then you need to answer the question, how did you go about achieving your objective? Then you need to finally focus on your result sections and finding, and then you need to arrange these sentences in 2, 3, 4, 5 and a single paragraph, which will be a specification of your motivation, your objective, your results, your implication. Then nobody can stop you in getting a very clear defined abstract. So normally don't write the abstract before. Once you have done with your research paper, you have everything being put in a concise manner, then ask questions about it in this particular manner, and then go on building your abstract. Your abstract will be very novel. And as I told you, that abstract, when it is not being asked, it doesn't should have figures. But when your structural abstract or some graphical abstract is being asked, then you can go for some figures, and there should be no literature review in that. So you need to avoid it, and you need to be very much concise of your final abstract, and it should be on the specification of the targeted journal. I tell you, and I was telling you before also, you need to have a targeted general and then focus on your abstract. And very important, no typographical errors, because as a reviewer, when I find those typographical errors and when I find those spelling mistakes, I get lost. So even your paper is very fine, very good research is done, but if you have not looked for the typographical errors or for your spelling mistakes, then it doesn't leave a very good impression from the editors and the reviewer point of view. And then as I told you, keywords choosing is very important. So when you chose your keyword, then they should not be again and again repeated, but the keyword should be the words that are repeated in your paper, and keywords should not be repeated in the keywords list, but they should be the keywords, the words that are again and again being specified in your paper. And ensure that your list has some key things. For example, if you're doing some work work in kidney and renal, then drug names, some procedures, and some common abbreviations, important common abbreviations, because if you are building some new abbreviations, then avoid using it, or you need to have the full form of that abbreviation, then your keyword will be important. And it's very important that normally what the reviewers do, they make a keyword search, and if they find something novel in your paper, they go on accepting or rejecting your paper. So title, abstract, and keyword play a very important role as a shortlisting criteria for your acceptance or rejection of your paper. So as I told you, that the do's of the thesis writing is that you need to understand your goal and a good quality, your structure, your language, and your help. You need to get help, but your don't should be you not use the thing which is called as plagiarism. And as I tell you, that once you explore the habit of writing your thesis in your own words, it can be a handwritten description, then typing it, then no plagiarism can occur. And avoid using abbreviations which are not common. If you are using them, get a list of those abbreviations, and avoid using words like we will do, I will know. You need to use a third person language that authors have done, because it proves a very good approach for the reviewers. But we should be avoid in any kind of a thesis and your report or your research paper writing. Then when you talk about any kind of diagrammatical description of either your thesis, so you have thesis have a title, then it has a title page, then normally you get an approval, permission, declarations. So this is a scenario when you are submitting your thesis. So you need to have your thesis statement, your literature review, then your references. This is specific from a university point of view, because university gives this information to the students that you have to present your thesis in this particular style. Then you need to have a questionnaire. Normally when you are submitting your thesis or writing your thesis, you have your publications also presented there, a short resume of the authors there. So this is very much done. But some things, that is when you talk about your title, your abstract, your introduction, when you talk about your findings, your hypothesis, your conclusions, and discussion, this is always there. And also the limitations and your future explorations, it is always there. So although it can be specified that is a university or a journal point of view, but these things are normally present in any kind of a novel thesis. And as I told you, a thesis is a statement, theory, argument, proposal, or proposition which is put forward as a premise to be maintained or proved. Very important that you need to justify the work that is being presented in your thesis, and always better to pick a topic that will be able to render professional help. Nowadays, as I told you, then we have a COVID-19 scenario. You may relate your work, or you may relate it with something like the pandemic situation. You may relate with some e-learning platforms. So things which are accepted in the market more should be focused more, rather than going for 10 years before work. You should focus on 5 years upcoming work. So the thing is that you need to specify the important questions, and those questions should be answered in your thesis writing. And when we talk about a good thesis, it should be very much focused, very much clear, very much specific. And as I told you, that using the unclear language and in my opinion, we will doing, this should be very much avoided in your thesis writing. And your thesis should be based on evidences, and those evidences are your results. And it should be very much analytical specification. That means not only your work, you need to compare with the work which is related to it. So comparative analysis is an important part of your thesis, and your thesis is not being completed unless and until you have done an efficient comparative analysis. So this should be a very important specification. I tell my researchers that where is your comparative analysis? This is your work. Maybe your work can be negative or positive, but at least compare with 1, 2, 3. That is all the specifications that need to be included in the thesis writing. And as I told you, that when you are talking about the thesis writing, your topics, your theories should be very much concise, and your literature survey should be done in a very specific manner, and from that only you will be getting some gaps of study. So your problem solving specification should be very much highlighted in your thesis scenario. So as I told you, you need to put down, you need to draw outline, you need to specify your introduction, literature survey, your discussions in a very kind of a scenario like a top down approach. And as it is being specified that it is very much relatable to a particular institution or a journal, so you need to highlight on the topics, outlines, and mini outlines and sub outlines can be specified depending upon your work, because it is your work. You need to present in a manner which is acceptable, which is a manner which is very much concise. And as I told you, literature search plays a very important role, because unless and until you haven't studied about the 10 algorithms, you cannot develop an 11th algorithm, because your 11th algorithm will be very much relatable to those 10 algorithms. So you need to do a very much, and nowadays you have those Google with you. As I told, when people 15 years back in India were going in places and then searching things, but nowadays you have Google, you have, and the thing is that you have your own mind. So what thing is better in Google, that's your searching. What things should be focusing from the Google or from any other platform should be done by your own. You are very intelligent personalities to do all those things. So your literature search, because your literature search give you gaps of study, and unless and until you have your gaps of study, you cannot have problem formulation being done. So the thing is that when all those things is being done, as I told you, your editing, your proofreading, your spell checking plays a very important role. Your lot of errors in the thesis, lot of punctuation marks issues, full stop issues, commas issues are not acceptable. You need to avoid these things in order to get a novel work. And remember that thesis is not supposed to be a question or a list, should be very much specific and clear as possible. The claims of a thesis should be definable and also arguable. As I told you, arguable is a very important thing. Unless and until somebody argue on something, you'll not be able to get the analysis, because analysis is very much dependent on argument. Then, as I told you, when we go about the structuring of the thesis, it is 1 to 5 chapters, but this is not limited. It can be 6 or 7 or 8 chapters. This is very much focused by the institution demands, your supervisor and researcher specifications. So thesis can have more than 5 chapters also. Then you have some preliminary pages, which are your cover pages, your title pages, your content pages, your abstract pages. So these are the important scenarios which should be kept, but the numbering is normally 5 is very important. You cannot have 4 chapters in a thesis. It will not focus on the depth of your work. So normally 5 can be the minimum. You can have 6, 7 depending on the work and depending upon the university criteria. Then, as we told, that the starting comes with the introduction, and the introduction should be very much informative. It should be very much defining paradigm. And as I told you, when you are ending your introduction in your thesis also, it should have the whole structure of your chapters which are further coming. And as I told you, that your thesis should be written in a story manner. It should be very much connected. If you're ending chapter number 1, your chapter number 1 ending should tell you that you're going with starting with chapter number 2. Your starting of the chapter number 2 would tell you that you have ended the chapter number 1. So the flow, the organization, the reading, it should be like a story. As a reviewer and as a supervisor, I always tell my students that you need to have a flow. You need to attract the user in terms of a story specification. So it should be a story that should be attracted by the reviewer style, and should be attracted in terms of a story building approach and the connectivity approach. Then the other thing is that after your introduction comes your literature review. And as I tell you, the literature review is very important, because it will help you getting in the gaps, and those gaps will help you put up the objectives and the problem formulation. Because your problem cannot be formulated, your objectives cannot be specified unless and until you have your literature done in a very regressive and a refined manner. Then the thing is that, as I told you, that gaps in literature will help you in getting the problem formulation. So it should be very much specified. And as I tell you, that when you are writing your literature survey, all the authors which are referred should be mentioned, because their paper help you to get something new, help you to get something gaps. So their names and their year should be clearly defined in the thesis. And then comes the third chapter. The third chapter is normally the methodology, and the methodology is the data collection and analysis of your work. It is very important to have some flow charts in them, some algorithms in them, and you can use some statistical tools if they are required. Some ANOVA testing or something can be done, but it should be very much focused in a diagrammatic description, because it helps the person, external expert who is reading your thesis, to get the information, the justification of your approach being utilized. And then the chapter 4 are the findings and the results, that too much be specified in actual work being depicted. Don't use the things that drawing your charts on your own. It's better here you pick out the actual snapshots. You pick out the snapshots which are from your software, which are from your findings, that help to tell the external supervisor or the reviewer that your work is done in a very aggressive manner. Then comes your conclusion, the recommendation, and the future scope. That is very, very important, because as I tell you, unless and until you have a summary of the results and comparative analysis being done, your work is nothing. So whenever you write your any chapter, your starting of the chapter should have the summary of the chapter, your ending of the chapter should have this conclusion of the chapter, because that's very important, which help the people being connected with your thesis. And references so play a very important role, because you need to use a common reference style. You cannot say that you are using 100 references in your paper and your thesis writing, and each is having a different style. If you are using an API style, if you are using a Vancouver style, the single style mannerism should be followed. And it's very important that you need to have some appendices. The appendices can include your tables, your figures, and this is very much related to a particular school or university, because they ask the people to get in a Harvard style, and they tell the people to get a particular style in their thesis. So this you need to first find out and then build your thesis report. And it's very important that normally you need to start right early, jot down things early, because then you can finish your work faster, and spot the errors early. And these errors can be spotted by giving your work in a chapter wise or in a notes wise to your supervisor, and your supervisor then can track out the errors, because normally we when write are not able to spot our errors on own. So give to a second person. That second person can be any trustworthy person, and who will not misuse your work, so they can spot your errors in a more effective manner. And it's very important that an inside out reading and inside out analysis of the thesis is done, and it should be done with a bang. It should be always motivated. You should always be specified with your working, and best work should be depicted in your thesis. So we say that no man is an island. So when you are doing this PhD work or your thesis writing work, you need to specify the time to write your thesis. You need to get the estimate work. So you can become an island if you get support from other people. So it never feel demotivated. Always use a realistic approach for doing your work. You should be very much time frame, time bounded, and don't wait on last to submit your work. Then it's very important that punctuations and your commas and your any type of grammatical specification plays a very important role. So you need to use the commas in a very effective manner. You need to use a semicolon when there's a pause, or when there are some ideas that are put together. So you need to specify where a comma is being used, where a semicolon is being used, where a colon or period or full stop is used. Normally people do lot of typographical errors and then say that my paper is rejected. So your paper rejection is your own specifications, and at least you can avoid these comma, these full stop, and these typographical errors, and rest remain on the reviewer, but these things could be avoided in a very easy fashion. Now let's check how the references play a very important role, and how the references specifications is an important criteria.
The tutorial is designed for you to to go through at your own pace. You can pause it at any time.
So it's very important that references should be specified thoroughly in one manner in thesis, whether it's a Vancouver style, whether it's your Harvard style. Single style should be used everywhere.
That means the reader can find the source for themselves. That means that they have referenced correctly.
See, we have Harvard, we have Oxford, we have Chicago, we have Osceola, we have Vancouver, MHRA, the APA, and so on. Yes, it's very important that is specified by the school or your department. So you need to check that and then cite and reference accordingly. See, when you talk about Harvard, it has an in-text citations, a bibliography citations. So that's very important to find out.
In these examples of commonly used styles, you can see that Harvard and Vancouver styles both put their in-text references in the body of the text in brackets, while Oxford and MHRA put them in footnotes.
See, they are using the footnotes here, and other are using in their in-text citation specification. So we need to specify which style we are using, and those citations and references should be very much clearly done according to those styles only.
You must check the examples provided for you.
And it's important you can go and check for some examples that are provided to you, and then do your referencing specification.
Different referencing styles are chosen because they work best with the kind of sources you would frequently need to use in your discipline. For instance, MHRA, or Modern Humanities Research Association style.
And it's very important that you need to specify your discipline also, because your discipline plays a very important role in the specification of your styling.
Another reason is that it shows you can work academically. That is, you are thinking about all of the details and the small things that you need to be meticulous and rigorous about.
References is a meticulous and rigorous work because it focuses on a one particular platform, so it should be done in a very systematic specification and using the same because the regularity plays a very important role.
The last point is that referencing is a key professional skill.
Very important, a professional skill. You cannot say that you are using one style one way, another style another way. You need to show a ordered specification.
But you wouldn't give the impression of being very professional, and that will make it hard.
As I told you, your referencing not done correctly doesn't specify that you have written your thesis in a professional manner.
You should also carefully read any instructions you're given with your assignment.
Your style is mainly specified in general. General specifies that you have to use this style in your research paper. Similarly, your university and your school also specify that you have to use this style of writing. So you need to find out first that.
One tip is that recent versions of Microsoft Word have an inbuilt facility to reformat references.
Nowadays, we have the inbuilt facility. I tell you that we are in a very good scenario in which we have so many inbuilt facilities of converting your references into single style. Some online facilities are there. Microsoft also provides so many facilities. So you need to access that also. But after accessing also, you need to check it through your eyes.
Using the right style isn't just about being petty. It shows you can work professionally.
Very important. Unless and until your referencing is done in a nice manner, your thesis never sounds to be professional. And your instructions of a particular style should be utilized in a very specific manner, and you need to follow those instructions. Now, we normally say that where to publish once you have written some paper. I tell you that target on Scopus General, because Scopus is one of the largest and most reputable abstract and citation database, and it is around 40,000 titles. And if somebody says that this is the journal, please publish in this journal, just go to Scopus, search whether that's a Scopus Journal or not. Why waste your paper and publishing in some kind of a journal which published in 2 days organize and ask you for some money or something like that. Many scopers generally ask for money, but at least they have the tag of scopers, so your work is done in a fruitful manner and published in a good reputed database. So you need to just go on a scopers website and search and publish your work in an effective manner in a acceptable database. Because when we talk about all the titles which are supported by scopers are in their website, and many a times what happens that some journals are removed, some journals are added, so you have various queries. I normally put query directly to scopers help desk and I get answers in 1 or 2 days. Ticket is being generated, I get the answers. So those answers are the fruitful answers which help me whether I should go on publishing about in a particular journal or not. So it's now very much easy. So why go for the fake journals? Go for the journals which are supported by the scopers database. And there's a sources page in the scopers journal. Just type the name or ISSN number of your journal and check whether that particular journal is supported by scopers or not, and rather avoiding those journals which are not supported by scopers. Normally people have the specification, the difference between the H index and the I-10 index, as it's a very important specification that H index correspond to a scientist's H of his or her N papers that have been cited at least H times each. So this is your own work, while the rest of the N papers have less than H citations each. So this is compared with your own work, whereas the I-10 index refers to the number of the papers with 10 or more citations. So the index assists the H index and gives more weight to the highly cited papers. So your H index and I-10 index normally plays a very important role nowadays. So you need to check on these listings also. So when you go for a research paper writing, as I told you, depicted this, that your draft, your writing draft should be very much concise in order to support your thesis work. And the specification that topic picking, your research, your organizing, your thesis formation, your editing, your grammar, and your resubmission should be done in a systematic manner. And this checklist should be checked again and again. Your checklist of your logical specification, your objective is being fulfilled or not, your understanding of your paper is done according to the general specification or general target or not. These checklists should be specified again and again. Very important. Did you plagiarize? This plays a very important role, because the journals outlist the criteria and they don't shortlist your paper if your paper is plagiarized. And you need to do it in a very organized and a formatted manner, and then nobody can stop in getting your paper accepted. So when you go for guidelines for a successful research paper, innovation is the key, technologies is the key, then your publishing specification, proofread is the key, your in-depth knowledge is your key, avoiding the incorrect statements, the vague terminologies, your specific understanding of unique writing plays a very important role in getting your paper accepted or not. And this is a very important thing, that you need to keep track of the work that is being done, and you generate your ideas. And plagiarism checker is an important thing, because I can tell you that if you're writing on your own through your handwritten specification and then jotting down, there is no plagiarism. You can go and check for this. Just write down a paragraph in your own words and check for the plagiarism. There will be no plagiarism. But cutting, copying, pasting, then using the synonyms, then going for the paragraph phraser, it will not serve the purpose. It will change the whole scenario of your paper. It will change the flow of your paper, the outlining, the definition of your paper. So when you nowadays, I myself have written a FIS DST project. So when you are going for a proposal also, all the key things that were mentioned in my talk focus on the proposal writing also. The proposal should also be focusing on the intended background, and your proposal should be no more than 100 words, which is depicting your clear insight. Then you should have some questions, context, methods, and significance of research. research, and these are the things which should be included. But as I told you, when you have going for any kind of a DST project, SERP project, they give the guidelines, they give a full format, and you need to follow it in order to get your things being shortlisted. Then after shortlisting, you have your one of your presentations and so on. So but your shortlisting is important if it is done in all aligned manner. So as I tell you that these are all the sources I will give to the organizers. They will give you, because these help you in your searching. Why go somewhere and ask people? Go on Scopus website, go on Clarivate website, go on the ResearchGate website, go on the Google Scholar, your Mendeley, your Publons. I am doing so many reviewing, so all my credits go to Publons. So you need to, as a researcher, information about these particular sites and do your own searching. Why to ask one or two persons? So I from Jamia Hamdard say that we are in the phase of COVID-19 pandemic, but we'll be overcoming this phase, and we should utilize this time to do good research, do good paper. And I myself have written around 2-3 papers in this pandemic situation, because I have taken the time of the lockdown and taken this time to do some effective research in terms of my papers. So this is my mail IDs. You can get connected to me through these mail IDs, and you can check my Google Scholar. I am a learner at each phase, so if I get some ideas from other people, I will be very much obliged. And now I'll be very much happy to answer any kind of questions if you have. So this is all I need to specify.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed a very exhaustive coverage of like the complete topic that like has been like assigned to you, ma'am, and like you have talked about the very close nitty-gritties of like what need to focus, what not to focus upon, how to move on, like how to basically cater to the areas of like both writing a thesis and a research paper, ma'am. So there are a lot of things that are like being like we have grabbed for our like the further scopes of learning, basically, ma'am. I personally thank you on behalf of Department of Management Studies, ma'am. And there are of course a lot of questions, because I'll pick up some of the questions, like looking at the time constraint also. So I'll just start asking question, ma'am. Like, is it okay to cite PhD thesis in the like the research papers and in the like the thesis itself?
Yes, you can reference it. It's not a problem. And but the thing is that you need to first check the styling, because when we say that you are citing a thesis, then it has a different style. For example, if you are following an APA style, then or example a Vancouver or Harvard style, there are different styling of citing a thesis or research work. Obviously you are not doing the work in the same manner. So you have studied that thesis in order to get some new ideas. So that is not a problem, because referencing doesn't come into the scope of plagiarism. So you can do that. That's not a problem.
Okay, there's one more questions like, can I write a thesis like an article-based thesis? The question from the participants.
Article based, sir?
Can I write a PhD thesis like an article-based thesis?
So actually PhD thesis is a little exhaustive. So when you are talking about research paper or an article, this is of 6 pages or 12 pages or 13 pages. And when we go about with PhD, although number is not a thing, but it is exhaustive. Unless and until you have some exhaustive works, a PhD is a degree, you are getting doctor under you. So when you are getting a DR under you, at least exhaustive things need to be produced.
Definitely. Like, what is the difference? The next question that I'm picking up from that, what is the difference between the introduction and background in the research proposal, and the continuation and statement of the problem and rationale of the study? So I'll begin with the first one. So what is the difference between introduction and background in the research proposal?
So actually that I focus also in my PPT also. Introduction is like a scenario in which you are introducing, like if I come and when I was there, you are introducing me. So now you need to introduce your paper to the audience, to the reviewer. said what's your paper is about, and introduction also say that you told that I'm related to Jamia Hamdard, so your paper should be related to which particular like wireless computing, so your paper is related to suppose artificial intelligence. So that's the introduction, and background should not be included too much in the introduction, but it should have, because as you only introduced me and told little about my background, that I have done this, I have done that. So your research paper should say that artificial intelligence has a lot of scope and these many studies are already done. So background should be little part of your introduction, which is specifying your background of the study. So these two things clubbed together will give you a good introduction.
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely, very well. Ma'am, and what is like the statement of the problem and rationale of the study?
So statement and rationale comes after your literature review. Okay, so when you have done a good literature search, then your statement comes after your gaps of study. So when you have done with the gaps of study, your objectives, or which are called as the rationale of your thesis, or your problem formulation occurs. But that should be should be presented more in the thesis rather in the research paper. So your research paper should not contain the objectives, but your thesis should contain the objective, because it is defining your whole steps, maybe 5 steps, 10 steps. So that's after your literature research.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. There are a few more questions, ma'am. In thesis, which option is most suitable? Like to write result and discussion in one chapter, or the second one option, to write them separately?
Sir, as I discussed that also, that is a little bit university perspective or school perspective, but normally your result is one section. Your result is one section in which you are presenting your result and with your work being done. Then the next, which is a summary and the conclusion, should include your comparative analysis, because your work done and then compared with 2 or 3 approaches. So in my thesis or in my students which are doing, I make them a 6th chapter. In the 4th chapter, they have results. In the 5th chapter, they have a comparative analysis being done with the other work, and then combined study and a summary and conclusion done in the 6th chapter. So that is very much specific. If you have lot of findings, you can have one chapter findings, another chapter findings with comparative analysis.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. One more question, ma'am. What all things should be taken into consideration while writing future research directions?
So future, as I told you, should be connected to market, should be connected, like nowadays, so many people are getting their paper accepted when they have the COVID pandemic being connected in their papers. And we are connected with UBA, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. We have submitted our proposal in that also. And they are giving special incentives to those projects which are connected to COVID pandemic. So anything which is in the market, like nowadays we have e-learning platforms and the webinar specification. So anything connected to the market, anything connected to the current technologies should be specified in the future perspective.
Definitely, ma'am. A few more questions, ma'am. That how to minimize the number of hypotheses and research questions in the thesis writing, like how we can minimize them.
So as I told you, that is by answering yourself. As when we were developing the title, you need to ask around 20 to 30 questions to yourself, not to ask to anybody. This is your work, to ask 20 to 30 questions to yourself, get some answers, jot down, then the repetition can be avoided. Then again do a refining, then jot down the 10 ideas. So your hypothesis will be built on your abstract basis only, on your title basis only.
There are, ma'am, 2-3 more questions, but like I'll definitely ask them. Like there was a question, like if you have published a paper from your thesis, then you're published in another paper from your thesis, then there will be a plagiarism issue, like your first paper will be coming as a plagiarism for your own second paper, like in terms of the RM part and the other consideration, because things would be done in the same directions. What can we do to solve these kind of like situations and the problems?
So the thing can be solved is being little more innovative. As I always tell to my students that use a different, I think we all have studied in 10th, how to reframe something. Okay, so I am good at something is one thing, maybe I'm a much better in something. So just reframe that sentence, just reframe in a specific way, because your cited work will come into the plagiarism. Your already published work will come into the plagiarism. So a little bit do more innovation, connect with some other words, connect with some other terminology. Don't paraphrase it. Don't use that online paraphrasing. Do your own working in a styling manner, because results can be totally different. The result phase will be different. Your conclusion phase will be different. The introduction and abstract should be connected with your results, which are of second phase. So this can be easily done. It will take 4-5 days, but it can be reframed.
Definitely, ma'am, definitely. One more question, second last one, ma'am, I'll say rather. What are the ways by which, like as a researcher, we can increase the way the citation for our, like you've just talked about in the closing, like the H index
So
and the
networking plays a very important role.
Okay,
So
that's the key mantra for increasing the
key
citation.
mantra, sir, key mantra. And networking is done in a very well-defined manner. So I can tell you, we are on the Facebook, use those platforms. I met Sarvendu sir in Facebook, the FDP group. And if you have done something, just post it. If you are doing something, get people liked. Why to hide yourself? You have LinkedIn, you have good platforms. Why use Facebook and WhatsApp just for nonsense facts and chatting? Use your profile and get done a good networking. Sir, from in the pandemic situation, I've given around 14 webinars, and my research citation increased heavily. So do that. Explore your skills. Why to be behind?
That's I think the key takeaway that I'm going to take away personally. And you have a forte into the areas of the proposals and the grants basically. So how to write an effective proposals for getting the grants and the projects as you have in your forte in your kitty from the
Yes,
DST.
sir. So
Yeah.
when we approached DST, the thing is that what they asked, our proposal was for infrastructure, labs, and development. So we focus on the current technologies, like we are connected with AI, artificial intelligence, and we are connected with all the subjects that are being specified in a PG group. Okay, so we confine to that. And sir, I can tell you, we have a very rigorous questionnaire session in the presentation. And the first thing was shortlisting. Do the thing that they want. They wanted the 10 pages proposal, absolutely abstract. So in the first phase, our proposal got rejected because they asked the number of the PhD scholars which are enrolled and which are getting some grants from there. And we just forgot to write that. And only that made our proposal didn't got shortlisted, because we put all the because just one line that you missed, your shortlisting is missed. So you need to be very much specific according to the things they have asked, and it will give you 100% chance of shortlisting. Then second is your presentation, very concise presentation, and very much on terms of their budget. So that also plays a very important role, because if you are going for a 5 crore and you are putting a 10 crore mark on them, they'll give you 1 crore. Because I can tell you, we targeted on 5 crore and they gave us 1.5 crore. So that's a very important role, because they will never give you what you demand. And you go on say that they are giving you 5 crore and you're demanding 10 crore, so they'll not shortlist you itself. So budget criteria also plays a very important role. And so you can get connected with some, like we connected with IBM and some other industries, and get a very much correct budget in terms of the latest configuration. That is also very important, because we as teachers normally don't have that profit and that business scenario. So get the correct picture of the budget from them, get them associated. They don't have any issues with them.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. In fact, again, I'll say that there was a complete description, and the thoughts that you have shared are definitely going to guide us in coming up with certain proposals also, ma'am.
Yes.
I indeed is very thankful to the session was very full of information, and what we were expecting basically. With these words, I would request the Dean Department of Management Studies, Dr. Deepa Gupta, ma'am, to kindly extend a vote of thanks to the guest and to the participants, ma'am. Ma'am, please.
First and foremost, I would like to say the same word which I told you earlier, Dr. Shireen. I love your energy. The way you express your thoughts, the way you express your knowledge and wisdom is really commendable. Really appreciable. And I'm so thankful to you for accepting our invite both the times for the webinar and for this FDP program, for this capacity building program, in which you really shared the essence of writing research papers in very short span of time. And not only the research paper, but you have given tips to the audiences for writing the thesis also. So on the second day, I would like to share with you, on the second day, there was a speaker who, explained all the participants that the essence of PhD is, the meaning of PhD is amalgamation of three words: patience, hard work, and determination. So really, now after your session, I would like to add on 3 C's into it. The 3 C's, the first C is the clarity of thought. When you're writing the research paper, when you're writing the thesis, the clarity needs to be there in your thought process and throughout your writing into the thesis, from your introduction till your results. And the second is comfort for paradox. That comfort from paradox, which you also mentioned, that we should not reach or we should not jump to the conclusions immediately. We should cross check it thoroughly and look forward for the both side of the coin. When during the research, we should always follow this principle, that is comfort for paradox. And third is an Italian word, that is connezione. That is all about connections. Everything is connected with everything in our research, in our research papers, in our thesis. Each and every line of our research paper or thesis needs to be connected with the other line of the thesis. There should be a connection, huge connection. So these are the 3 C's which are very essential for all the people in research. We all are researchers, we all are lifelong learners, and we all should keep all these things in our mind. And Dr. Shireen, once again, on behalf of Department of Management Studies, GL Bajaj Institute, Greater Noida, I would like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude for accepting our invite and for sharing your exhaustive PPTs with full of knowledge, full of information with all of us. You really proved, you really made this day fruitful for all of us. Last but not the least, I would like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to our patron, our Vice Chairman Sir, Shri Pankaj Agrawalji, our Director, Dr. Mukul Gupta Sir, and all the committee members for their continual support and help in conducting such a capacity building program. Dear participants, this is the last day of this capacity building program, but I know that our connections, our relationships will be everlasting. We all will keep on interacting virtually and physically whenever time will arise. And we ensure that we'll keep on organizing many events on research, on other thirst areas, on other sought after areas which are the need of this hour. With all these words, I request the organizers to kindly share a small certificate of appreciation from Department of Management Studies, which we would like to share with Dr. Shireen for sharing, for coming on the board. Dr. Shireen, kindly accept this small certificate of appreciation.
Ma'am, I like your certificate because it has my picture. Last time also I got that, so it was very much praised on that also.
Thank you so much. You liked it, you accepted, and you really proved the purpose. You proved the purpose in the sense, like being a teacher, it is our moral responsibility to share more, to come forward. And this indeed solves our purpose also, like you just mentioned during your session, that when you started taking the webinars, interacting with people virtually, then your citation intensity also goes upward. So this is also a kind of mool mantra for others. They should connect with the world. The whole world is a global village right now. You can connect anywhere. And I'm so happy to announce you, Dr. Shireen, that we have the participants from other countries also, from other states also. So that's the beauty of this new normal. And we all should accept this new normal, and we should keep on our learning pace on a high mode. So with all these words, I would like to express thanks to everyone, our resource person, organizing committee, and dear participants.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks.
Thanks.
I'm a group photographer, yes.
Oh, yes, Nisha. We would love to have a group photograph with all the organizing committee members. Dr. Shireen, they are working very hard.
Yes, ma'am,
From
I can
last
see that. I can
15
see that.
days, these people are working very hard. I'm having very few people in this team right now, but otherwise, there is a team of more than 15 people who are continuously working day and night to make this capacity building program a successful one.